Hello, rock and roll, rock and roll. Welcome back to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories. I'm your host, Jay, and we are on Cream Part 2. So let me ask you a question. Who is Pete Brown? Pete Brown was this English guy. He was a poet, songwriter, and he collaborated with Jack Bruce, the bass player of Cream. And Pete Brown and Jack Bruce, they wrote the songs together. I Feel Free, White Room, Swalber, which is, what is it? She Walks Like a Bearded Rainbow. If you know Cream, you know what I'm talking about. And also Sunshine of Your Love. A handful of the best songs, right? Anyway, Pete Brown says of Clapton, he says, he was a strange phenomenon, the English radical who went home for tea with his grandparents. So, he's just, Clapton is an interesting guy, right? So, Clapton leaves New York. We were talking about before when he was in Greenwich Village and hanging out with Zappa and Bob Dylan. So he leaves New York to arrive in Los Angeles to be shuttled to San Francisco. And the cab driver, who knew exactly who he was, stated, "He's a lot quieter than I thought. Just a regular guy. I never met anyone less rock star in my life." I just like that quote. It's kind of funny. So Clapton arrives. Cream arrives in San Francisco, August 22, 1967, and they play with the Grateful Dead at the Fillmore West. To sum it up, though, Clapton, Bruce, and Baker, they all hate the Dead. And they hate all of the California bands. They call them amateur. A good quote from Clapton is, "It didn't seem to me any of them had ever listened to the proper records. We walked in there and cleaned it up." That's a pretty badass quote. But to tell you the truth, I believe that of the California bands, the difference is that all of those California bands were folk influenced, not blues influenced. They were, banjo players, fiddle players, and it was more from the folk scene that derived that psychedelic West Coast scene. But anyway, so Clapton, not a big fan of the Dead, and another one of his quotes, he said, "They had a lot of skill, but no idea what to do with it," which I think is kind of funny. Doesn't mean I agree with it. I think it's funny. So after playing the Fillmore, Clapton wrote some personal notes on Fillmore stationery, describing how well it went, how Bill Graham was such a great guy, and his reassessment of the U.S. as quote unquote where it's at, but also these notes had a bit of a dismal sense that he's talking about the lifespan of Cream will probably only last months, not years, and that the creative tensions between the three, how they're at each other's throats, the band is merely just entertainment. And this goes back to my theory about the whole Bad Trip vibe, because the audience is enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. You're enjoying it. We like Cream. But have you ever been in a room or been with someone for like a half a day or a whole day? You don't like them. Your mind can't get free. You can't get liberated, right? So it's like, imagine the bad trip that this was. If he's writing these notes on stationery, he's having a fucking horrible time, which is terrible because we're digging the music, right? So But his notes are not incorrect. I mean, they're not wrong. At a backstage moment while in San Francisco, at that moment, Bruce and Baker had to be physically separated. They're already fighting. Another story was that Ginger Baker was fighting Jack Bruce at a hotel. Ginger Baker grabs a fire extinguisher and was said to his quote was saying he wanted to ram it up Jack's ass. This is true. This is evidenced by a journalist who witnessed the entire thing. This guy named Russell Tyler in the Huntington Hotel witnessed that. Clapton expresses his longing for solitude, hating touring. The interviewer came away with a sense of an incredibly depressed, vulnerable, dispirited, and shy individual. It's like everyone's favorite band at the time was Cream, but Clapton just hated everything that was going on. And this is just right in the beginning, 1967. Also, but we also can't complain too much since he was treated like royalty. Clapton was, as I just said, everyone loved it, right? So a big check was sent from Robert Stigwood to Clapton. Bill Graham gifted him a gold watch. But even so, Clapton's opinion is that Cream were bad and they were taking advantage of the audience. That's how decided he is, Here's a quote from Clapton. "It got to the point where we were playing so badly and the audience were still going raving mad. They thought it was a gas. But I thought we were conning them. We're cheating them. We're taking their bread and playing them shit. I couldn't work on that basis." It's amazing because we're enjoying it, buddy. Chill out. So it gets worse. There is a documented observance in Central Park during this time. Central Park, 1 a.m, there was a man observed sitting on a bench just crying his eyes out. This man was Eric Clapton. It was that bad. It was that freaking bad. All right, so after all that tour, on the trip back to London, they are greeted by adoring fans that summer. Clapton went to cult figure to international star. He's so big. And he also sort of grasped the possibility of becoming a pop star. He's more of an exhibitionist. He's not as shy anymore now. He wears kimonos. He wears beads, necklaces. He has makeup on, and the book says at one show, I've never heard this before. The book says at one show he hung his guitar from the ceiling from some sort of strap or rope to get some sort of feedback. He really has no cares, At the same time, Jack Bruce, an easily angered individual, is getting sick of reading in the press that Cream is Eric Clapton and his 2 sidekicks. Because Jack Bruce wrote a lot of the songs, and also Ginger Baker wrote a lot of the songs. So those 2 guys are saying, no, this is my band. No, it's my band. No, it's my band. But the press is saying this is Eric Clapton and his 2 sidekicks. So that's gasoline on that fire, right? So, at any moment, it's going to be 2 against 1, 1 against 2. Someone's always going to be mad at another band member. It went so far that, having separate rooms for the band is fine. No, they had to be in separate hotels. 3 different hotels. That's how bad this got. There was a show in Denmark after hearing some rude remark in the dressing room. Jack Bruce, he left, took a taxi to the airport and was about to get on a plane and just fly home. But they chased him down and said, please, no, stop. Come back, do the concert, chill out. Another time, Jack Bruce abandoned the two mid songs, right on stage, just left. So they're just two guys are playing, So this kind of thing would happen. One guy would get pissed off and just walk off the stage. So now it's just two. It's not the three. Clapton is just doing his best to be a mediator between the two because he's still the shy. Okay, he's shy. He's quiet, but he's also like the king of the crop, right? He's the one that's in the press, and the other two are fighting all the time. So, also, in his social life, Clapton would hang out with Keith Richards. Keith Richards was living in Chelsea, and he would go to his house. He would hang out with Mick Jagger. And at this time, 67, going on to 68, they were talking... Well, before Brian Jones died, they were talking about kicking him out. And they kind of approached Clapton like, hey, would you like to be in the Rolling Stones? And he said, I'll think about it. Can you imagine that? Like, at least, okay, if he did it, it would be one album, because Clapton is too much of a pain in the ass to stick around with anyone longer than one album. Okay, how about this? Rolling Stones, one album with Eric Clapton. I have no idea. Anyway, okay, so Eric is not doing too shabby financially. He's bringing in about £30,000 per year, which at that moment was about 15 times that of the average white-collar worker. Like, he is... You got nothing to complain about, man. Like, shut up. Just play your fucking guitar. But Clapton was actually very generous with his money. And he didn't care about the business side of things. Lucky guy, right? Just a lucky guy. But, fortunately for him, the management of his investments were in the hands of Robert Stigwood, who really set him straight, as I said in the last episode. And, Clapton's rich. And he's only 22 years old. So, Cream does another tour to the U.S. and in San Francisco, partying and in the green room and everything. There's a guy named Bobby Peterson. Bobby Peterson, who actually was a guy who collaborated with Phil Lesh, bass guitar player from the Grateful Dead, on songs Unbroken Chain and Pride of Cucamonga. So he's in that mix of music, right? So this guy named Bobby Peterson witnesses Eric's intake. Noted on the topic of LSD, mescaline, marijuana, amyl nitrate, he says, whatever we did, Eric had to have 2 of. So he thought it was fascinating to see this guy double up like that, but, at 4 in the afternoon, he would have to go have his proper tea, It's kind of like a man living in one world and like half in another. And I think that's why I like reading about Clapton, because he's just a weird fucking guy. Anyway, and I think in enjoying too much time off the stage, Clapton is actually arrested at a house in Topanga Canyon, that's in L.A., on some stupid marijuana charge. So Clapton spent a night in jail in Hollywood, along with Buffalo Springfield's members Jim Messina, Richard Furey, and also Neil Young. And I guess Neil Young, at that stint right there in jail, he had an epileptic, he had a seizure while he was in custody, and that was his nickname, Shaky, because he would have these fucking seizures. Anyway, relations between Bruce and Baker at least remained constant. They loathed each other, United in their mistrust of Clapton, the two constantly argued and constantly fought. In Los Angeles, it was a thrown chair in the dressing room. In Houston, Eric stated, I've had enough. A U.S. tour in Houston, right? Like, maybe that's the reason why. Eric said, I've had enough. And Jack Bruce said, so have I. And that was it. That was the end. We're going to stop here. It's not the end. They do this all the time. They break up, they get back together. Okay, so it's not the end, but it's the end. It's the end for now. It's the end of part 2. So thank you for listening to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories. Tune in for part 3. It's just going to keep getting better, man. We are going to have such a good time. I got a lot of fucking stories to talk to you about. You like rock and roll, you like a good story, get over here, dude. Come hang out with me. All right, brothers and sisters, see you later.